Shalom from Jerusalem. This is TV7's Daily Update, and in today's edition, we will try and focus on the latest to include the situation in the Gaza Strip with Yasser Abu Shabab, who was the head of the largest militia that opposes the Islamist Hamas, reportedly eliminated in light of the detonation of an IED in eastern Rafah, which is in the southern Gaza Strip. In Lebanon, we see a unprecedented, historic meeting publicly that has taken place between Israel and Lebanon under the auspices of Morgan Ortagus, the U.S. Special Envoy for Lebanon. What does it signify? How involved was Hezbollah in all of this, and if at all? But of course, the situation also continues to be challenging, to say the least, when it comes to Lebanon and Syria as well. But nonetheless, in Damascus today, we saw a large delegation of the UN Security Council meeting with President Ahmed al-Shara, formerly by his al-Qaeda alias Abu Muhammad al-Julani, as well as other senior figures of Damascus. And the Islamic Republic of Iran continues to do its own bidding in the broader scheme of the Middle East. We'll discuss that also briefly. But before all of that, let's introduce our experts for today, to include Mr. Amir Oren, our TV7 editor-at-large, Mr. Oded Eilam next to him, formerly the head of the counter-terrorism division at Mossad, currently a senior fellow at the Jerusalem Center for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy. And last but not least, Mr. Marshall Billingsley, formerly the Assistant Secretary General of NATO, a U.S. Assistant Secretary of the Treasury for countering illicit terror financing, and currently a senior fellow at Hudson Institute, among a long list of other positions, which we won't have time to go into all of those today. But nonetheless, I'd like to start with Mr. Oren. Give us a little bit of some more clarity, if you will, with regard to the situation in the Gaza Strip. Yasser Abu Shabab was the hope for a replacement of the leadership of the Islamist Hamas, at least in the southern parts of the Gaza Strip, where he has managed to do a very good job in pushing back on the Islamist terror organization, despite having a tough background himself.
So, Jonathan, and our two co-panelists know full well that in the Middle East, change is only a bullet away or an explosive charge away. And one cannot rely on an individual or even on a clan or small organization. We found out about it with Bashar Jumayel. We always suspected that King Hussein or a friendly Arab leader could be eliminated, assassinated, and then the entire regime and policy towards Israel would change. And this is what happened in Gaza. Some people hope that clan leaders, Hamullah leaders, as they are called, such as Abu Shabab, would be able to replace, at least locally, at least in a certain district, the Hamas influence. But they are vulnerable. They are susceptible to assassination. And this is what happened. And fortunately, one may say, this took place as only one dead hostage remains under captivity in Gaza. Police Sergeant Ran Gavili, after all the other abductees, dead and alive, have been returned. So this gives Israel more freedom of movement or maneuver in Gaza as it tries to consider its moves ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Owen. Indeed, the last Thai national, foreign national, was returned, or his remains were returned to Israel yesterday evening. This morning, early at around 7 a.m., the Israeli National Forensic Institute has announced that they do confirm that it were the remains indeed of this Thai national. I apologize to our Thai viewers. His name was somewhat tough to pronounce, but nonetheless, it is a joyous occasion, or rather mixed feelings, if I may, since he was murdered on October 7th. And thankfully, after 789 days, returned to Israel, now soon to be also brought to Thailand for proper burial, and his family may start their mourning properly in this context. Now, I'd like to start with you, Mr. Elam, on the situation of this elimination down south at a time when the Islamist Hamas is working quite tirelessly to consolidate its power once more. But nonetheless, Abu Shabab, he was a son of the Tarabin clan, a very powerful clan at that happens to also control much of northern Sinai these days. And does that actually bode some sort of potential conflict with Islamist Hamas over such an elimination?
First of all, I want to apologize for my coughing. I am still a little bit under a flu, so I hope I can manage to carry on. Uh, we have to remember that the alliance between Israel and Abu Shabab is not a natural alliance. Okay, Abu Shabab, first of all, are Bedouins, and part of them were the creators of ISIS. Their main line of business was drugs, weapons, and all these goodies that they were dealing with. So, in effect, it's like Israel had came to Tony Soprano in New Jersey and told him, "Listen, why don't you take over this part of New Jersey on behalf of us?" So the whole alignment with the Abu Shabab was very, very fragile, and I didn't expect it to last for a long time. Nevertheless, they surprised everyone by the determination, they're willing, and they were in a way fearless. First of all, we don't know yet who was standing behind this assassination yet. Could be it's an internal conflict within the clan, but nevertheless, the Hamas is very joyful and of course, claim responsibility, but it's not yet to be established. What is going to be the outcome is, of course, we're going to be in a part of chaotic events in Gaza, which might resemble the situation in Somalia and other places. And nevertheless, it's very clear that we cannot put all our money on the tribes, and we have to find a solid and more responsible alternative.
Indeed. Well, just to clarify for the sake of our viewers, the Bedouin tribes in the Middle East are known to go for where the money goes. So during the time of Muhammad Morsi, for instance, the Tarbin tribe, which consists out of roughly 500,000 people throughout the Middle East, have affiliated themselves with an organization called Ansar Beit al-Maqdis, an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood. Subsequently, once Abdel Fattah al-Sisi brought about the coup in Egypt and Muhammad Morsi was brought, or rather incarcerated, they started looking for alternative means, and that is when the Tarabin tribe sent, alongside other clan leaders, to a delegation to Idlib, where at the time they pledged allegiance to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi and altered their affiliation from the Muslim Brotherhood as part as Ansar Beit al-Maqdis to Wilayat Sina, of Dawlat Islam al-Iraq wa Ard al-Sham, namely the district of Sinai for the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, and have operated there at the behest of the Islamic State. Nevertheless, the Islamic State has lost its territory during the previous Trump administration, and since they have made very strong affiliations with the Mukhabarat al-Misriya, the Egyptian intelligence agency, as well as other affiliations. So it's much about money. There is some ideology in there, but the operational proceedings are usually very pragmatic as such. On that, Mr. Billingsley, when we look at the complexities of those type of scenarios and everything that we're seeing right now, is there any hope for the Gaza Strip to actually fulfill the very ambitious 20-point plans of President Donald Trump?
Based on the president's press conference yesterday, he clearly believes that, yes, the peace plan is executable and is moving forward. I will defer to my Israeli counterparts on who exactly was behind Yasser Abu Shabab's killing. I think it's maybe a bit premature to say that Hamas was responsible. It very possibly was internal clan violence. Certainly, Hamas has raced to make the case that that they were behind it and that he was an Israeli collaborator, and that this should be a warning for all the other, non-Hamas authorities in the Gaza Strip. Let's wait and see. Obviously, Hamas continues to engage in ceasefire violations. There are very, very recent strikes conducted by the IDF and Shin Bet, even this morning, eliminating some of the commander and deputy commander and inner circle of the Eastern Rafah organization. So it is a very tense situation. The United States is of the view that the president's plan is executable and must be followed through on. But I think the United States is also very much counting on Israel to be the spine stiffener in this process.
Thank you, Mr. Billingsley. Mr. Owen, I'd like to divert our attention to Lebanon. Today, there were a few targeted strikes, intelligence-driven targeted strikes by Israel against Hezbollah terror infrastructure as well as Palestinian terror infrastructure of a number of organizations affiliated to the Iranian proxy who have also fought together with the Iranian long arm, so to speak, against the state of Israel over the course of the year-long war up until the 27th of November of last year. But today we do see something quite significant, actually yesterday, when a meeting is held between Dr. Uri Reznik, who is the deputy director of the National Security Council in Jerusalem, and he met with Ambassador Simon Kram, who is a Lebanese Maronite Christian, very vocal against Hezbollah, formerly an ambassador of Lebanon to the United States. And Morgan Ortega's managed to bring those two together with respective delegations. IDF was there, LAF was there, to discuss economics, civic society, and other aspects of potential normalization. What is happening here?
So the common denominator between the two topics, Gaza, which we dealt with, and Lebanon, which we are entering now, is the meeting between President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu, right now scheduled for later this month, the very end of this year, 2025. And obviously, President Trump wants to see progress and perhaps achievements, tangible ones, on these two fronts. And the progress should be political, diplomatic, and perhaps even economic, and not only military, which is why Israel is making the effort to strike as many targets as possible before Netanyahu goes to Washington, and why this meeting took place. Now, Dr. Resnick is a relatively low-level official, but he is political rather than military. So the significance is that an Israeli political operative, political policy-wise, met with a counterpart of sorts, an opposite number in the person of an ambassador, a foreign ministry type, and discussing what the entire American foreign policy and national security apparatus hopes to be a political future, a political path, and not only security arrangements in South Lebanon. Now, obviously, Israel has already seen peace agreements and arrangements with Lebanon come and go. In 1983, we had a peace agreement with President Amin Jumail. It was a piece of paper which the Syrians under Hafez Assad shredded immediately. So yes, it is a beginning, it is symbolic, and we have to see whether there is going to be any tangible progress.
Thank you, Mr. Owen. Mr. Elam, your take on this, and to what degree is Hezbollah going to push back on this matter at a time when it is, of course, between the rock and the hard place?
I tend to agree with completely with Oren, and even more pessimistic than he is. Knowing the Hezbollah and knowing the Lebanese infrastructure and structure for many, many years, I cannot foresee any sort of realistic, feasible solution to the what's happening right now in Lebanon, unless the Lebanese army steps in, fully dismantling the Hezbollah from its weapon, and this will not happen. It will not happen because they don't have the capability, they don't have the will, and they don't have the drive. And let's not forget that around 60% of the soldiers, not the commanders, are Shiites, and I don't see it happening in the near future unless there will be a international pressure upon the Lebanese government, which frankly, we do not see it right now, to force them to disintegrate the Lebanon Hezbollah. As time passes by, Hezbollah is gaining their strength. They are making all sorts of channels and routes in order to receive money, mainly coming from Iran, but not only from Iran. And so, although, it looks really nice on the newspapers and on the media, Lebanese meeting civilian with a civilian in Israeli, but in actual, it doesn't have any meaning as far as I'm concerned.
That is disheartening, to say the least. Mr. Billingsley, I know you're not as optimistic as our two colleagues about Lebanon, to say it mildly. But what I hear from Mr. Elam and Mr. Oren, of course, is there's not enough international pressure other than voice frustration from people who have quite a stature in the current administration, to include Tom Barrack, where they pretty much refer to the Lebanese state as a failed state. And Mr. Elam notes there is no capability, there is no will, and there is no drive, namely the political push in order to bring about such a resolution to the issue of Hezbollah. What can you tell us about this? Obviously, you've dealt with Lebanon for many years as well, and the U.S. taxpayers have spent a lot of money into making the LAF something that it's clearly not.
Well, we have spent a lot of money. Many in Washington feel that we've wasted a lot of money. Let's keep in mind, however, a couple of things. The first is that This meeting is the first of its type in more than 30 years. Okay. It happened notwithstanding a strike just the day before on a senior Hezbollah commander. It would not have happened without Nabi Berri's agreement to proceed. And if this also signals the emergence of my friend Morgan Ortegas as a major interlocutor versus some of the other Americans that have darted in and out of these discussions, I think this is a very positive and constructive step forward. So I'm not as dismissive of the significance of the meeting. Do I think that the LAF has the ability to disarm Hezbollah? Yes. Do I think that there is a political will to send them in to do it forcibly? No. And therefore, it's going to be essential that the United States, which I would say has put enormous pressure on the Lebanese. The Lebanese love to excuse themselves and beg for other third parties to intervene and to require other people to step in and solve their problems when they themselves have the obligation to do so. There was a delegation, a very senior delegation, including Sebastian Gorka and John Hurley from the Treasury, that were in Lebanon just maybe 10 days ago. That's about as senior a delegation as you can get, putting the kind of pressure that needs to be applied. But it is going to, again, as we said with Gaza, it's going to be essential that the IDF continue to remove pieces from the chessboard as this pressure continues to mount.
Since we don't have very much time left, unfortunately, and we'll have to leave some of the topics for tomorrow, I will want to ask both our distinguished guests as well as our editor at large to comment briefly on the question. Is war at this point inevitable, at least with Iran pushing for the disarmament of its proxy in Lebanon in a very decisive pace? Mr. Eilam, we'll start with you.
I will answer that very, very short and very brief. War is not an imminent and it's not a necessity as long as there will be an international coalition that will force Iran into compliance with international law and international rule. And it's possible. It's possible with the new leadership in Washington, and it's possible, of course, with the change of concept that Israel had portrayed during the war. But I don't see it as it's something that's inevitable. I think there is a diplomatic solution, but this diplomatic solution should be using ultimatums, should be using force if possible, and I think it's feasible.
Thank you, Mr. Eilam. Mr. Billingsley, same question to you. And does the United States currently engage this issue with a whole of government type of approach in the Clausewitzian term?
No. Unfortunately, I think the U.S. decision-making process is a bit distracted here and somewhat scattered with the way that decision-making has been pursued in this administration. And the dissolution of the National Security Council apparatus as a structure to facilitate that whole of government approach. That said, I believe that diplomacy has to be given a chance to proceed. It must be underpinned by military force when necessary. One of the things that I think is probably inevitable is another round of confrontation with Iran as they continue to excavate the tunnels associated with their nuclear weapons program. My friend and colleague who's been on your show several times, David Albright, is following this matter very closely, but it is very, very clear that the Iranians are digging out those nuclear facilities, and that could precipitate action in the near term. One other thing, Jonathan, that I will continue to harp on with your viewers, because though it is half a world away from the state of Israel, it is very, very relevant to Israel, which is the fate of Maduro in Venezuela. Because so goes Maduro, so goes the entire Iranian and Hezbollah money-making apparatus, the gold-generating apparatus, the cocaine for weapons apparatus in Latin America. So what happens in the coming days as President Trump begins to ratchet pressure on Maduro, I would submit is very, very important to your viewership.
Vital, if I may add boldly. Mr. Oren, you have 45 seconds.
Well, Prime Minister Netanyahu has announced today that he is picking his military secretary, Major General Roman Goffman, as the next Mossad chief. And obviously, our guest, Oded Elam, has spent the best years of his earlier part of life in that organization. And we all hope that this will bear fruit. And one of General Goffman's strength is in the Northern Front, Lebanon and Syria, where he was the division commander and took part in other discussions. Let's see more of a focus there in the coming months and years.
Indeed, he was the commander of the Bashan, of the Division 210, which was very instrumental, particularly in the area of Syria. But this is all the time that we have for today. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our panel of experts, to include Mr. Marshall Billingsley, Mr. Oded Elam, and Mr. Amir Oren. I'd like to thank all of you at home as well. Until our next edition, from here in Jerusalem, Shalom.
My name is Eran Lerman. I used to be Deputy National Security Advisor to the Government of Israel, currently Vice President of the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security, a think tank, and the editor of the Jerusalem Strategic Tribune. For the last few years, I've been a regular panelist for TV7, a fantastic opportunity to bring deep and analytical perspectives to the debate over regional affairs, Israeli affairs, international affairs, in the company of some of the best minds in Israel.
Jerusalem Studio, now available on Spotify.